Hey,
Hello.
Senator, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for hopping on. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
People are really excited. A lot of folks want to talk about Qatar specifically, so that's where I'm going to kind of start here. Just general thoughts. What are your thoughts about the $400 million big, beautiful jet that the Qatari government's gifting to our president?
Well, I'm thinking maybe I need to go there. Donald Trump has a private plane. He's got an Air Force One. I don't have a plane, and I think it would be a nice gesture if they gave me one. I think it'd be a nice gesture if they gave you one and your viewers one. But I don't think it's likely to happen because the Qataris are not stupid. They're given this plane for a reason. They're giving this $400 million gift to Donald Trump because they want something from Donald Trump. And what they want is a favorable US policy towards Qatar and towards Qatar's interests in the region. And that's what they expect from Donald Trump. There's a reason why the Constitution prohibits gifts by foreign leaders to a president of the United States. Is for exactly this reason. And I can't imagine the founders would have ever thought there would be a gift so valuable as a $400 million gift. But it's crazy. Even the Trump administration's Attorney General Pam Bondi acknowledges that if they gave it directly to the foundation, it would be illegal and unconstitutional. So they want to try to launder it through the Defense Department. Of course, that doesn't make it any more lawful or constitutional. Certainly doesn't mitigate any of the concerns over what that means to our policy in the Middle East. And we would have to scrub that plane for eavesdropping equipment. We'd have to completely reconfigure the plane to make it brought up to Air Force One standards. That's going to cost probably tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to the
Right.
taxpayers. And it may not be ready until Trump is ready to leave the office, in which case we're really just getting a plane for Donald Trump.
Well, what's your response to folks, including Trump himself, who says, listen, this isn't a gift to me, guys. This is a gift to or to the Department of Defense, to the Air Force. It's a gift to the United States government. And therefore, it's not an emolument. It's not covered by the emoluments clause.
They wanted to give the gift directly to the foundation, to Trump's foundation, which Trump can use. He can use it during the foundation stuff, he can use it after he's out of office. They want to give it to the foundation. And the Air Force middleman is just a ruse. That fools nobody. That fools no one. And it doesn't make it any more constitutional. So this is, just open graft. Even Republicans in Congress who are willing to bite down a lot of graft from this president to get their big, beautiful tax cut for rich people don't buy this, wish it would go away. I don't know how many are going to have the courage to speak out about it, but it's obscene.
Right. Is there anything Senate Democrats can do other than inquire with the Attorney General to kind of push back here and investigate or provide any oversight into this deal?
Yes, I mean, we can continue to raise the issue in hearings, in our correspondence, in our public appearances, but basically we can continue to raise the price, not that Donald Trump will have to pay for this aircraft, but that they will have to pay for this aircraft
Right.
because they will own this aircraft. The Republicans who don't oppose this will own this aircraft. And we've seen, frankly, when we've raised the cost of some of these really poor decisions by the president and the administration, they back down. I put a hold on Ed Martin's nomination to be the U.S. Attorney in D.C. This was a stop the steal lawyer with no prosecutorial experience. This was a guy cavorting with Nazi admirers. This was a guy moving to dismiss cases against his own clients with most patent conflicts of interest. This is a very partial list of all of his offenses. But the longer we held that nomination, the more we brought out about his unsuitability for office, the hundreds of hidden appearances on RT and other Kremlin propaganda, the price Republicans were going to have to pay became too great. And his nomination essentially died in committee. So that exposure has an impact, but we have to stay at it. We can't lose focus.
Well, I think that pivots me great to my next point, and that's Judge Janine, the new or the new U.S. Attorney, acting U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C. Could you just take me through your mindset when you saw that she was the one chosen to replace Ed Martin?
Well, I think she was chosen for two reasons. She was chosen because the president hates to back down when he does something stupid. Nominating Ed Martin was a dumb thing to do. So he wanted to nominate someone else who, in his view, would be equally offensive to the people that brought down Ed Martin. So, Judge Janine was a good choice. But he also picked her the way he picks, frankly, so many 23 people that he's appointed so far by watching them on Fox.
Right.
Because nothing matters to the president so much as how you look on TV. That's why we ended up with such a dud like Hegseth as our defense secretary. And what's more, Judge Janine had supported him during his, uh, maximum hour vulnerability, the whole Access Hollywood scandal when other people ran away from Donald Trump. So that's why we ended up with this new albatross
Right.
as the nominee. Now, I think what people really need to know about her is this was one of the biggest liars, one of the biggest purveyors of the big lie about the elections, to the point where she was lying about the voting systems like Dominion voting. Fox, as her employer, had to pay over 700 million in fines to Dominion over those lies. And so, is this really who we want as a prosecutor? Someone who lied in such a way that Fox had to pay hundreds of millions of dollars? What does that mean for the exposure of the American people and the running of that important office?
Well, I think it's also interesting because not many people know that the DC U.S. Attorney's Office doesn't just do federal crimes; it also does all the state and local crimes within DC. It's the only prosecutorial body in the district. Do you have any concerns that the day-to-day work of the office, which is so critical, that doesn't really have make national headlines every day, will be impacted by this nomination?
For sure. And you're right, it has double duty because it prosecutes these local crimes as well as federal crimes. So it's doubly important in that sense. And of course, because it's the seat of our government,
Right.
that power can be used to go after all the elected officials who reside or work in that area. And we've already seen in Ed Martin, while during his brief tenure, him send threatening letters to people like Chuck Schumer and other elected officials. So that power can be particularly abused by someone who is, in an unscrupulous way, willing to carry the water of the president. And so we do need to be deeply concerned about that. When the Justice Department, for example, moved to dismiss the corruption case against the mayor of New York, they were abusing the power of the department to protect the president's allies. In this case, the mayor was an ally on immigration matters. What was of more concern to me when that case happened was, when are they going to use the department as a sword to go after the president's enemies?
Right.
And we saw Ed Martin do that by trying to essentially fabricate a criminal case to withhold funds in an environmental account established under the Inflation Reduction Act. So this new appointee probably has about the same ethical compass as the last one, and we have to be concerned that they too may weaponize the Justice Department to go after people in the District of Columbia.
Do you plan, if there are some rumblings that they may try to make Judge Janine the permanent U.S. attorney and nominate her officially, would you place a hold on her nomination like you did with Ed Martin?
I'm going to discuss that with Dick Durbin, who's our ranking member in the Judiciary Committee, and Sheldon Whitehouse, another one of our leaders in this area. We worked as a team on the Martin nomination. I put a hold on his nomination. Dick Durbin insisted on a hearing where he could be cross-examined, which never happened. But the threat of holding him to account that way was incredibly important. So I'll be conferring with my colleagues to figure out what's the best strategy on this nomination. As with others, you probably have seen that Leader Schumer has put a hold on
Right.
all Justice Department nominees to contest this Qatari gift of this aircraft.
Right.
So we'll be conferring about next steps.
And I do want to pivot, and I know you have to leave in a few minutes, but I do want to talk about Medicaid because that is a topic on a lot of people's minds, both who are watching here, but also just generally speaking. And right now in the House, there is a bill that, if passes, will result in about 13.7, 14 million Americans potentially losing their health care, according to the Congressional Budget Office. Where do you stand on this bill? And just generally, what do you see happening to it if it gets to the United States Senate?
I'm vehemently opposed to it, and I think it will be changed in the Senate. It'll be made less bad, but it will still be a terrible bill. Instead of maybe cutting 13 to 14 million people off of their health care, maybe it gets changed in the Senate to only cut 10 million people off their health care. They're also going after people's food assistance. Those are who would otherwise go hungry in the SNAP program. That will result in millions of people going hungry. So this is a terrible bargain because they're trying to use that money that otherwise would go to paying for healthcare and food for a tax cut for really wealthy people. And I think what many people need to know who might think, well, I'm not on Medicaid, so I'm not really worried about these cuts to healthcare. First of all, we should be concerned about those cuts because it's affecting a lot of other people's healthcare. But even if you're not on Medicaid, the reality is there are a lot of hospitals that are only open because they get Medicaid funding. If they don't get that funding, those hospitals close, which means your hospital closes. Whether you're on Medicaid or you're not, it means you don't have a hospital to go to, or maybe that labor and delivery room at the hospital shuts down, or maybe the ER shuts down. It affects all of us. And those effects are going to be profound and they will cost people their lives. So, terrible bill, terrible process. We're fighting this, but I have to think they're going to somehow cobble this together because right now they got nothing to show for their days in office, no legislative accomplishments, nothing, no achievement. They put all their eggs in this big ugly basket. So we're going to get something, and tragic. I think it's going to be something really hurtful.
Senator, final question for you. What's your message to folks who are just genuinely concerned and get increasingly concerned with each passing day, seeing the direction our country is going right now?
Well, I would say a couple things. One is we're going to get through this. We're going to have some tough times ahead of us, but we're going to get through it. We've been through hard times in our history. We've been through world wars. We've been through a civil war. We've been through a period of a war in Vietnam and a civil rights period, often accompanied by violence against people protesting. So we've been through tough times. This too shall pass. But what we do right now really matters. These mobilizations around the country really matter. People being willing to speak out to protest really matter. People reaching out to their university, their college, and saying, stand strong, don't capitulate. Reaching out to people they know at firms and at companies saying, don't give into this extortionary campaign by the executive. Courage breeds courage in others. What Harvard did in standing up has encouraged other colleges to stand up. What some of the law firms who are willing to fight the president have demonstrated is if you fight, you win, have encouraged others to fight. So we're all in this together. Each of us can have an influence. Our circle may be larger, may be small, but we have a circle that we can influence. We need to use that influence right now to save our country.
Senator, thank you so much for joining me today.
You bet. Great to be with you.